I want to speak to right here, just normal people that have done the right thing, that, you know, are trying to figure out, like, okay, how do I actually protect this legacy that I've been working for? You know, I've been a doctor, a lawyer, a police officer, or whatever, adding value, real value to society, not just, you know, doom and gloom boomering over here, or just hugging trees and high-fiving and all of that stuff over here. How do we actually add some real value to the net worth that I've created? And how do I ensure that my children actually gain the labor that I've put up front? Because that's what this is about. It's about the labor that you have put up. How do you ensure that the value of your labor that you've put up for 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, 70 years actually gets passed forward? So there is a lot of people on the doom and gloom boomer and the happy hippie side that have been saying that the ETF is dead because the SEC has delayed their decision making for a series of ETF applications. This is before that, you know, the whole government was going to shut down. Remember all that drama that the doom and gloom bloomers and the happy hippies were all in panties in a twist about as well, when I said probably isn't going to shut down, because it generally hasn't. Now the narrative is the ETF is dead. And so I want to talk about this ETF. I want to talk about the ETF, and I want to give you some guidance and some things to look at, and what I've been looking at and what I've been watching. The main thing to watch for in this whole thing, with the ETF being, you know, delayed and all these applications being delayed, is GBTC. Just BlackRock getting into the space was the signal for the institutions, etc., to understand that they need to start focusing on Bitcoin. So, and in London, yesterday, in fact, there was 2 former managing directors of BlackRock on a panel. And one of them, his name is Stephen Schoenfeld, who is now the CEO of Market Vector Indexes. And this was a former BlackRock managing director. Basically said, I give the SEC 3 to 6 months before it approves a Bitcoin ETF. So I want you to focus on the people that actually know what's going on, and not the doom and gloom boomers and the happy hippies, right? Focus on the ex-director of BlackRock telling you how things work. And the reason why he said that was that the SEC has never ever delayed ETFs in the way that they delayed it because of this apparent government shutdown. And the response to the delay was giving guidance to the filers on wanting more information and needing more information, etc. And most importantly, they have not delayed the GBTC application, which is the real signal amongst all the noise here. And the reason for that is because they are not in control of the GBTC application. If you remember back a few weeks ago, the courts handed the SEC a slapdown like made for securities laws history. They basically said, we have no idea how you managed to come to this conclusion and deny this ETF based on the products that you've already approved. This is a smackdown to the level that we've never seen before in securities laws. So, based on that, the SEC has 45 days to respond. If the SEC does not respond within 45 days, the courts will be appealed to give the SEC instruction on what to do. Now, you think about where the SEC's position is here, right? What could they do here? They could either come up with a reason why everything they've approved in the past has been false, like the futures ETFs, etc., or what else could they do? They could turn around and just flat out refuse, in which case the court will be forced to give the instruction. Or they could go and appeal the decision of the 3 judges, in which case they can get a Royal Rumble smackdown from 17 judges. So the SEC is in a really tight spot here. And the former managing director at BlackRock clearly understands that the SEC is in a precarious position, and has given them 3 to 6 months before it approves the Bitcoin spot ETF. Right? As I've explained many times in the videos that I've done, there might be favors, there might be, notice, there might be recognition, there might be appreciation, there might be these things. But it's not like BlackRock owns the SEC. BlackRock might know how the SEC thinks better than everybody else, considering they've applied for 576, I think, ETFs, and 575 have been approved. They might know how the SEC thinks a little bit better, but they don't own the SEC, right? The way that most of these two fringe groups, doom and gloom boomers and the happy hippies, like it feels like the way they think the world works is like someone shows up like a video game and says, this is what happens, and then that's exactly what happens. It's not how it is. There's incentives that need to be aligned. I agree that sometimes it can feel like the world is from a conspiracy novel, but the U.S. capital markets are the best in the world for a particular reason. That's because they have safeguards against a lot of corruption that happens in other countries. And BlackRock, while they have influence, they don't have complete control over the SEC. So where do we go from here? Well, we have until next Friday. Not tomorrow, the next Friday. Friday the 13th is the final deadline for the SEC to respond to the lawsuit or their loss on the lawsuit against Grayscale. That is the signal. Everything else is BS. The signal is Grayscale, not BlackRock. So anyone who's going out there pretending to be an expert, trying to tell you, oh my God, the dreams of an ETF in 2023 are over. I've seen so many of these tweets. Is a moron. Because the real signal is Grayscale, not BlackRock. They can delay BlackRock all they want. They could delay BlackRock to 2026. As soon as they lose on the Grayscale side, they'll have to bring it forward. Just like they delayed it, they can bring it forward. So the real signal is that. Now, the most important thing that I wanted to talk about was everyone thinks I'm bullish, right? Everyone thinks I'm hyperbolic bullish. I get told, oh my God, he's a Bitcoin shiller. Oh my God, he's so bullish. I can't stand it. Oh my God, it's never going to go there. I want to talk to you about what the ex-director of BlackRock thinks is going to happen to price action after this ETF is approved. He said, and I'm quoting, he said that his company has run the numbers and believes spot ETF approval may result in $150 to $200 billion of inflow into Bitcoin investment products over 3 years. 3 years. That guy's 10 times more bullish than I am. Not 10 times, like 3 point something times. Because I was accounting for that over 10 years. He thinks it's going to happen in 3 years. He thinks 150 to $200 billion of inflow is going to come for Bitcoin within 3 years. Now let's work out what that means. So I crunched the numbers, and if we average it over 3 years, there are 252 trading days in a year. So there's 756 days. And it will never happen like this because it will be in spurts. But the way you analyze something is you look at the average daily trading volume incoming and then work out an equilibrium price on the asset. So an equilibrium price is very simple. It's like how much buying and selling demand needs to happen right now today to keep the price the same, right? And right now, based on Fundstrat's research, it's about $25 million a day. So over 756 days, which is his 3-year time window, 150 billion because the 200 billion, let's just stick to the lower end of the scale. That's $198 million a day. $198 million of purchasing a day to keep the price at an equilibrium, right? So, or rather, that's how much incoming demand that there is. That would mean that in order to maintain some form of equilibrium, you would need bear in mind, today it takes $25 million, right? And it's going to be $198 million. So, based on his prediction. So, that you need a 7.92 times increase in daily price to make this the new equilibrium price, which means that the equilibrium price would be sitting at $198,000 just from a spot ETF approval, just from that inflow of capital coming in over 3 years. That doesn't include other industries being built on Bitcoin, like what Strike is doing, $7.5 trillion, disrupting a $7.5 trillion a day consistent demand business. It doesn't account for people like you and I buying Bitcoin. It doesn't account for people like Michael Saylor buying Bitcoin. It doesn't account for anyone else buying Bitcoin. It's just the ETF. So let's work out what the actual market cap would be if 150 billion decided to come into the market, right? So you got 150 billion coming into the market. And if we're looking at a bull market multiple, Bank of America's bull market multiple, which we could get to, you're looking at $17.7 trillion market cap on Bitcoin. And if we divide that by 21 million coins, you're looking at $842,000 Bitcoin. $842,000 Bitcoin. So why is there this spread between 198 and 842? It's very simple. The 198 assumes that you can have daily drip demand coming in, 198 million, 198 million, 198 million, 198 million. It assumes that. It assumes that there is the same amount of coins available on exchange as the 190 million, 198 million, whatever, coming in on a daily basis. That's what it assumes. But that's never how it works. Because as the price starts moving up, as the price goes from 25,000 to 60,000, less people want to sell. Now, before maybe it was different, but now less people will want to sell because they've got capital gains to worry about. It's better to just hold the asset and borrow against it. So less and less supply. As that supply tightens and constrains, the price starts accelerating at how much it goes up with a new 198 million coming in. That's why we get to the bull market multiple and the price of $842,000. So the next time you think that I'm bullish, just remember BlackRock is more bullish. And that should terrify the living hell out of anyone. The fact that BlackRock could be more bullish on Bitcoin than British Hodl is insanity. Is insanity. This is BlackRock. So you got to think about it and you go, well, what do you do in this scenario? Do you listen to the doom and gloom boomers who are trying to tell you the world's going to come to an end and you need to stay in cash and you need to acquire, Bitcoin at a certain point, and because the world's going to end, you need Bitcoin and the 10-year yield and all this other stuff? And the charts, look at the charts, oh my God, the charts. Or do you listen to the happy hippies, the $1,000 net worthers, the $10 a month DCA gang that are just happy to take part, want to hug, want you to go spend, $3,000 on a Bitcoin conference and high five each other even though they haven't got to one Bitcoin yet? You have to discard these opinions. And life sort of works like that. You have to discard the happy hippies in life and you have to discard the doom and gloom boomers because life really happens here. This is what life is about. Life is about you acquiring one Bitcoin because you finally understand that BlackRock is more bullish on Bitcoin than British Hodl. Because I was doing my math over 10 years. He's doing his math over 3 years. You understand that this is coming. You understand that this is happening. You understand that you need to secure one Bitcoin. You understand that ultimately there are only 3 rules to Bitcoin. Step number one, you buy Bitcoin. Step number two, you shut the fuck up. And step number three, you get fabulously wealthy.